When I tell you that this is a different video than I have ever done, I am not even playing.
There's several things that are a little cult-like.
They are afraid. They're afraid of losing their friends. They're afraid of losing their families. They're afraid of...
I am Rachel Hollis, and I am so excited to join you guys. I heard that your theme this year is own it.
So what's up? Hi, howdy, hey. My name is Jessica Stansberry, and if you're new here or if you're old here, this is a different style of video for my channel, but one that I am so freaking pumped about. So you need to know something about me to like lead into what I'm going to talk about and to also explain why I'm doing this, but to also explain what's coming next on this channel. So I am a naturally super curious person, and I'm also someone who researches the heck out of anything, right? So if I want to find something out, I will have found it out on the internet in 2.2 seconds. If I want to find somebody, I'll find them. If I want to figure out who is related to who, I will get there. I am very good at internet research, and that, my dears, is how I have come up with this new series that we are going to dive into here on this channel called Curiosity, spelled T-E-A, you know, like spilling the tea. And basically, I'm gonna spill the tea on hashtag all the things that you and I are all curious about. So MLMs, marketing tactics, like crazy stuff that not a lot of people on the internet are deep diving into. And just so you know ahead of time, the curiosity segments aren't gonna be like this super short, succinct, 8-minute video. Not that I do 8-minute videos like ever on my channel, but they're definitely not gonna be, because this is going to be a deep dive, okay, into whatever topic we are conquering that week. And this week, we are conquering MLMs, which, by the way, if you don't know, stands for multi-level marketing, which, by the way, sounded better if I called it Culty-Level marketing in my title, so I hope y'all enjoyed that. I was very proud of myself for that title. When I was like coming up with these video ideas, I was like, man, that was good, Jessica. That was good. Now, I feel like I need to put a disclaimer here, and the disclaimer here is that I am not one of those people who is going to sit here and bash everybody who does an MLM, or who has sold an MLM, or who buys from an MLM, or go after, anybody like that. I really want to do a deep dive into how they started, what they are, why they're still a thing, the good, the bad, and the culty. That's pretty well what we're going to do in this video. And if you're like, Jessica, that's mean, why are you calling it culty? You'll see. Just hang tight. Wait around to the end of the video. I promise we'll get into it, okay? So the structure of these curiosity segments will change probably depending on what topic I'm talking about, but today I really just want to talk about what MLMs are, how they present in our current life, what their structure looks like, why they're looked at as a bad thing, and then I want to literally segment it out in the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, there are a couple of good things about MLMs, and I say a couple, and you'll understand why I say that in a little bit, but there are a couple of good things, and I can't just flit over that. I really want to make sure that I do a full deep dive, so I hope you're as excited as I am. All right. So, what is an MLM, you ask? Well, I just told you a minute ago. It stands for multi-level marketing company, or direct sales company. And essentially, it just means that there are individual salespeople within the company who are then selling and recruiting on their own. And it essentially makes this multi-level marketing structure that we'll probably talk about way more in depth here in a minute. But that's kind of the basis of how it works. There's a product, there are people who started the company, and then there are people underneath those people who are selling, and then those people have people underneath them who are selling, and so on and so forth. And as far as what you know as MLMs or direct sales companies, there's a ton of them, a ton, right? So Monat, Pampered Chef, Lularoe, Beachbody, Modere, I think is how you say that. 31 bags, Arbonne. There's like a ton of MLMs and direct sales companies, and we all know them basically by those companies that just seem to pop up out of nowhere, and then everybody is raving about them and selling them in your area, okay? So that is what that is. If you have ever signed up for one of those, you were part of a multi-level marketing company or a direct sales company. You know, I also really want to make these conversations like truly conversational, and I think I'm gonna have to get like a chair, you know, like sit in a comfy chair and talk this out with y'all, rather than like, you know, in my office chair where I feel like I'm still doing like here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tips on how to do this thing. So we'll see. We're gonna try and make this work, okay? I know I've said this before, but it's trying to teach an old dog new tricks when it comes to like how they've talked or done videos on YouTube before is very hard, but I'm excited about this series. I really am. And by the way, in case you're wondering, I am Southern, and so the curiosity is always sweet tea. Okay, so why are they so controversial? I feel like this is such a point of like a topic right now. Like so many people are talking about MLMs, how bad they are, how good they are, taking up for them, like all the things. And I think the reason for that is multifaceted and multi-pronged, but essentially Lularoe, which is a documentary on Amazon Prime that deep dives into the not so great parts of Lularoe, recently was released, and also recently went viral and like people are talking about it. But in addition to that, I think that the rise of the anti-MLM culture over the last like year or so with the pandemic and anti-MLM like YouTube channels and podcasts and things like that, like going live, I think it's just like a topic on everybody's mind that for whatever reason, people are interested in. So I feel like we hear a lot about MLMs being controversial, and we see a lot of like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is in this world, you know? So like if you go up to somebody who sells an MLM and you're like, hey, it's a pyramid scheme, they're going to be like, no, it's not. Pyramid schemes are illegal. Or if you are an MLM person who sells stuff, you may have to explain more about what the business structure is or what the product is than you would have in the past, because people are more skeptical of them. So in addition to documentaries like Lularoe, there's also Vice documentaries. I think there's a Vice documentary about Lularoe, if I'm not mistaken, and other documentaries about other MLMs. Betting on Zero, I think, is one about Herbalife, like however you would say that, which got in big trouble a few years ago. And a few years ago, there was a podcast called The Dream that is dreamy. If you are interested in this kind of stuff and you want to like listen to something after you watch this video, go listen to that podcast. But The Dream essentially dives into Amway, which was a literal pyramid scheme and is what caused basically the government to set up a structure where this kind of thing was illegal. And it dives deep into Amway and then also the parallels between Amway and MLMs. So I think between like a lot of documentaries and that podcast and a lot of other podcasts that are just like, you know, scorned MLMers or people who have been on by an MLM in some way, I think we're just seeing like a, you know, like a major surfacing of negativity, I guess, around MLMs. And listen, before you run away, I am not like overtly anti-MLM. Now, I would never recommend somebody like go join one. If one of my friends was like, hey, should I join whatever? I would be like, no. But I will also say that I'm also a super like, let's see all sides of the argument and let's like get all the facts here, right? Kind of person. And I am not going to sit here and just bash MLMs. However, unfortunately for them, a lot of the data leans negative. So don't think that I'm just going to sit here and bash MLMs the whole time, but hopefully this will give you a good picture on like everything I learned as I was deep diving into this subject. All right, so let me first kind of say that pyramid schemes in the United States of America are illegal. And The structure of a pyramid scheme is basically that of a pyramid. So like at the top, there's going to be somebody who started the stupid thing, and then they're going to convince other people to sell the thing, and then those people are going to convince other people, and as the people underneath you come on, you make more money. Like that is what a pyramid scheme is structured like. And so if you'll notice the way that a pyramid scheme is structured and the way an MLM is structured, there's a lot of similarities, right? So how are there so many MLMs that are not illegal because pyramid schemes are illegal? Essentially, the differentiating kind of factor is that with a pyramid scheme, the only thing being sold are like people. And I don't mean like they're literally selling people, although I don't know, you kind of do sell your soul and something like that. But pyramid scheme, like there's no products involved. It's just, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna show up, or I'm gonna give you $1,000, and then I'm gonna convince 5 people to give me $1,000, and I'm gonna keep part of that 1,000 as my commission for convincing those people and pass on the rest. Like it's all just money and people. There's no like actual product. So in my research, it feels to me like MLMs basically took the structure of a pyramid scheme and added product to make it not illegal. Because their argument, like Lularoe, and they've had like depositions and been sued and whatever, and Herbalife and like whatever, their argument on it's not a pyramid scheme, it's not illegal, is that they're not doing that. They're not having people be the product. They're having a product. But, and this is where all of the likening from MLMs to pyramid schemes comes in, okay? This is where it all happens. Essentially, in an MLM, most of the money you make is going to come from the people you recruit, okay? So if you were at like point A on the pyramid, then you have a certain structure underneath you. And the more people that you get to sign up underneath you, the more money you make. You make a certain percentage of their sales, blah, blah, blah. If they get people underneath them, you move up the ladder and you make a certain percentage of those group of people's sales. And essentially, the people at the top of these MLMs they're no longer making money from the product. They're just not. They are making money from the people underneath them. And the people underneath them are making money from the people underneath them, and so on and so forth. There's not really a lot of people making a lot of money from the product itself. It's more about the people you recruit underneath you, which means we're making money from the people, which means it basically looks the same as a pyramid scheme. So that's where we get into this like, MLMs are pyramid schemes. No, they're not. MLM the argument between everybody, right? Basically, if you'll go listen to the Dream podcast where she dives into Amway, which essentially was like the airplane game. And basically it was structured where like you brought people and those people paid a certain percentage and you got a part of that. And then the company got a part of that, and it went on and on and on. And there were people getting rich, but literally the only thing they were doing was bringing their friends to be sucked into these things, right? These like parties, these airplane parties is what it was. So if you listen to that podcast, you'll come to learn that as a way to kind of get around this, like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this thing, they started incorporating products. And that's really what MLMs are today. Now, the first MLM actually came before Amway though. In the full structure of like how things happened, the first MLM came before Amway. Okay, so back in 1932, in the like time of the Great Depression, there was this, I dropped my notebook. There was an MLM started called Wachters, W-A-C-H-T-E-R-S. I don't know if that's how you say it, but essentially they were like a health food company or like a health vitamin company. Wonder Food was what came up a lot when I was searching for this. And it was kind of the first thing of this, of this structure where, there is people at the top, and then they recruit people, and then they recruit people, and then they sell the products. And so it definitely came before Amway. Amway just took out the product part. So I think a lot of times we see the story of Amway as like that was the start of MLMs. They just added products, but in actuality, that's not true. I found in my research there were actually 2 that started in the 30s and 40s before Amway started in the 50s. And both of the original MLMs, which were that Walkers and Nutrilite, have both since been shut down. And if you go to Nutrilite's website, you can buy their domain if you'd like. I don't know. Felt like a solid business plan to me. So I think it really comes down to a chicken and an egg situation. An MLM, or a direct sales company, technically came before Amway, but then Amway kind of, I don't know, did what it did and then made the government step in and say this is not legal. And then that made more MLMs. I don't really know. Like, if I really had to like dive deep, I don't know what the structure was there. And I didn't find in my research, like, if someone from Amway then took that idea and started something else. But like I said, I don't have a mouse in my pocket. Like I said earlier, MLMs have a bad reputation. They have a bad rep. And especially over the last few years, they've gotten an even worse reputation. Again, from documentaries like Lularoe and Betting on Zero and Vice coming out with documentaries and things like that. But also because of actual illegal activity happening within an MLM structure in companies. Like, it's not just because of the documentaries, it's because the companies did things that caused, like legal people, cops, if you will, to look into them. So 2016 and 2017 was kind of the years when Lularoe, went a little bit and started getting sued and people started leaving. And Lord, y'all, I remember this so well because I always thought them friggin' them friggin' leggings were ugly as hell. But I would be suckered into going to these parties, right? Like, I would be suckered into like, oh, you have to come to this party, or I'm having this party, or like my sister-in-law would go and I would go with her, or whatever, right? And I remember going to quite a few Lularoe parties, and I remember there being several Lularoe reps here in my small county that did pretty well. I went to a conference in early 2017, which was kind of at the peak of Lularoe being what it was. And there was a girl there selling Lularoe, and she was like, she's still a friend to this day, but she was like the cutest thing in the whole world. She was like, 5 foot nothing, super small, tattooed from head to toe, and made Lularoe look really cool. I'll be honest. And so at that point, I definitely did buy a little bit more than I had in the past because I was like looking at what she was wearing. The last time I ever put Lularoe on my body, though, was either late 2017 or early 2018. I had this dress that I really liked, but their dresses like hit right under the boobage, and then they like flowed out. I don't know why that was like a thing, but I really liked my dress until some old lady at church walked up to me and was like, "Oh, honey, your kids are so cute and you're expecting another one?" I was like, "No, ma'am. No, ma'am." And I went home and burned the dress. I didn't actually burn it, but I definitely got rid of it because no. So it definitely had its period of popularity. I know that. Everybody knows that. But that 2016, 2017 timeframe was when all these like consultants, but also other people were coming out and trying to like sue the pants out of these people. And if you want to know more about Lularoe specifically, Lularoe is a great documentary on Amazon Prime, like super good. And I always think it's so funny. Do you know what my favorite part of documentaries is? And I hope that I'm never in this position. But like my favorite part of a documentary is when they're interviewing the villain in the story, but the villain doesn't know they're the villain. So like Tiger King, Carol Baskin, she had no clue. She had no clue they were portraying her like this. She thought she was just like, yeah, I'm talking about the Tiger King and like he did, right? But then the whole documentary positioned her as this like murderer crazy woman. And the same thing kind of happened with Lularoe. I think it happens in a lot of documentaries and I love it so much. I would love to be like there when someone is doing this because I feel like I would have a really hard time keeping a straight face. Like, tell me about your business when I know I'm going to take this and like make you the villain. It's fine. Anyway, the owners of Lularoe are in the Lula Rich documentary, and they tell you pretty well everything you need to know about Lularoe and like where it is now, because it's still a thing, even though it kind of, plummeted a little bit and it dropped off in popularity and all the things. But when that happened, we started to see a lot more like anti-MLM culture coming out, because at that point people have bigger platforms and more platforms to share this kind of stuff with, right? So 2016, 2017 would have been like a good year for anti-MLMers, or the controversy around MLMs to start because of Lularoe. Now Lularoe is a little different because they required their consultants to buy a lot of things, like thousands and thousands of dollars. And usually with MLMs, it's like a $99 starter kit. So I don't know, there was just a lot going on there. But in 2018, Keith Raniere from Nexium was arrested, and that brought MLMs into the forefront again, because he literally was running an MLM before running Nexium, and Nexium was essentially a pyramid scheme with people and products in the form of like courses and self-development that was also a sex cult.
That leader of that so-called sex cult behind bars for the rest of his life.
Like, I mean, he had a lot of dreams and goals there, like he wasn't just gonna do a pyramid scheme and be illegal with that. He was gonna, give people self-help and make people have sex with him and other people against their will. So there was just a lot going on with Keith Raniere and Nexium and whatever, and there's a ton of documentaries about that too. But that was in the forefront because he got arrested. There were some famous actresses who were involved. One in particular who was basically like his right-hand woman, figuratively, literally. And basically she helped him though, like recruit all these other women who were being recruited into a cult, like where they were treated very, very badly. But thankfully it all kind of came to a head and ended in 2018. But there are still people, just like with any cult, there are still people who still like believe he was innocent and still like worship him, right? And so like, that's a problem. But that happened in 2018, so that was kind of around the same time as Lularoe. And then honestly, I think the pandemic stoked the fire of the anti-MLM world, because people were watching more YouTube, people were listening to more podcasts, people were like doing things that were passing the time, and then like that was a topic of conversation, and here we are. So if you're wondering where this like anti-MLM or controversy really came from, that's it. The fact that these MLMs are literally being sued and taken through legal action on the regular, and the fact that like social media has just escalated the marketing tactics of MLMs, and they're just more like prevalent and in your face than they used to be. The only real MLMs I remember when I was growing up, without social media and stuff, were like Avon, Mary Kay, and Pampered Chef. And I can tell you, I don't think I ever went to like an Avon party. Was that a thing? I don't think they ever did that here. But I definitely went to Mary Kay parties. One of my best friend's mom sold Mary Kay. And then I definitely went to Pampered Chef parties. And by the way, I really enjoy Pampered Chef products. And I also need to tell you my story of being in an MLM. We'll get to that, I promise. But essentially, in these parties, I mean, I don't ever remember somebody being like, you should sell this, like sign up underneath me. It was always about the product. Whereas now, I have been to a few MLM parties in my day as an adult, and it's always like, yeah, the product's cool, but if you sign up, like you don't have to sign up to sell it. Just sign up so you can get the discount. And then once you have the discount, we're probably gonna rope you in. But also there's a big long speech at the end of the party where I talk about how this company changed my life and how it could change your life too. And if you want your life changed because you're probably sitting there hoping you could, you should join my team. Like that's the structure of MLM parties now, I don't ever remember Lularoe parties like selling people into the company. And honestly, I think it was one of those, like it didn't really have to after a certain point. It gained so much popularity that people were just signing up and they were like finding people to sign up under, I just don't remember them being as prevalent when I was growing up because of like the social media situation. And now it seems like every influencer has an MLM that they push. I knew I was going to be doing this video, and I knew it was going to be like a deep dive, and I wanted to get as much research as I possibly could for all the things I wanted to talk about, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And so I put out a question box on my Instagram, and one of the questions I got was, why are MLMs still a thing? I mean, if we're deep diving, that like needs to be in the deep dive. And honestly, I think it really just comes down to, why is anything that has a bad rep still a thing? Like, there are still cult-ish religions who attract new people, like the one that Tom Cruise is in, you know? There are still like things that attract people to them because of the nature of what they are. And so I think that's why MLMs will always be a thing unless the government steps in and is like, no, okay, y'all didn't understand. When we told you that was illegal, this was too, and we've just let you buy with it for a few years. So like, stop. But I don't see them doing that just because there's like a ton of lobbyists and people who work for like direct sales lobbies and whatever else. But as far as like why MLMs are still a thing, I think it all comes down to a couple of things. One, people aren't paying attention to the news about MLMs until they need to pay attention to the news about MLMs. Let me explain. So you've got like Sally sitting over here, and she's in her own world. She's in corporate America, you know, and she's like doing her thing. And then Sally's husband decides that he likes, you know, Susie, and he like exits that marriage, right? And so Sally's like, oh shoot, I need some extra money because like husband's over here with Susie now. And Sally now has a vested interest in trying to find ways to work from home. And so now she's searching for those things, and now she's going to find them, but she's only going to find the good parts. So she missed the bad because she didn't care. It wasn't something she cared about, but she saw the good when she was in a moment in her life where she needed it. So I think that that's one of the reasons. Another reason is the reason that like diet pills that we know are bad for us are still a thing. Like, there are people in this world who just want a quick fix. Like, they do. They have a problem and they don't want to find a way to fix it in, you know, something that might take a long time or whatever. And so they see the promise of being able to do something really quickly that they jump all over. And the last reason I think they're still a thing is because MLMs do a good job of trying to make the people who don't think they're good seem crazy, right? They have answers to it all, you know? You're like, hey, is this a pyramid scheme? They're gonna be like, no, pyramid schemes are illegal. If you're like, oh, well, I don't wanna recruit people, it's, oh, well, you don't have to. These people are crazy. Like, you don't have to. I don't know where you heard that. There are always going to be a group of people, pro-MLMers, who are doing what they need to do to make the anti-MLMers seem crazy and seem like they're just jealous or whatever the scenario is, right? So I think because we'll always have that, like that is present in so many parts of our life, like politics, actual cults, like things. There are always people who are like, ooh, this is weird. Why are you doing that? And the people over here who are like, that's not weird, you're crazy. Oh, let me tell everybody how they're crazy and I'm right? Like, we're always gonna have that. So I think that's a lot of the reason why it's still a thing too. Okay, so that is the background you need to understand what MLMs are, what they kind of started from, why they're still a thing, who is in them, like all of this stuff, okay? Because now we're gonna dive into the good, the bad, and the culty, like literally in that order, okay? Good, bad, and culty. Because that is where MLMs get their like reputation, is that it feels very cultish, and I'm gonna explain that. Like, I want you to see why it feels that way. But also, let me just tell you, while doing the research for this video, I am drawing so many parallels to that I'm a little scared, honestly. If you're on my email list, you already know about this because I emailed and I was like, guys, is self-help the same thing? I don't know. Okay, so this next part is where I'm gonna break the mold a little bit, and I'm going to talk about what I think are the good parts of MLMs. Do not come at me in the comments One, if you're anti-MLM, but two, if you're pro-MLM, I am trying to show both sides here, okay? Okay. And you can come at me in the comments if you want to, I guess. I guess that's your prerogative, but I'd rather you didn't because I'm not gonna fight with you. But yeah. Oh, actually, I told y'all that I would tell you my story of being in an MLM. So I was in an MLM for like a minute. Now, that being said, I still have products that I was buying up until recently from MLMs. And I'm still actually buying one product from an MLM because I can't find anything else that I like as much. And that is my protein powder that I buy from Arbonne. But as far as like selling an MLM, I've only done that one time in my life. I think it was a regretful decision. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I sold 31 bags. And I sold 31 bags as someone who didn't really even like 31 bags. Like, the bags themselves, like, it's not like I was like overtly, oh my gosh, these bags are so amazing. You know, like, I don't know. So I feel like y'all need like and so what happened was, story, and that's what I'm gonna give you. Basically, I was quitting corporate. If you've been around this channel for a while, you know that I quit my corporate job and I started the iteration of my business that was then, which was being a web designer. And yeah, so anyway, I quit my corporate job because I was miserable. I was quitting my corporate job because I hated my friggin' job. I was quitting my corporate job because they were mean to me. And listen, I don't like to go in rooms where people are gonna be mean to me, right? I was quitting my corporate job because I wanted to stay home with my son. So all of that to say, I was pretty desperate, which is really funny for me to say because we're gonna talk about desperation later. But anyway, I was very, very desperate to make money in whatever way I possibly could to make it possible for me to quit my job. Right? And even back then, I knew that like going and selling something that like the rest of my county was selling was not going to be good for me because I live in a small town. You get 25 consultants all selling the same thing. Nobody's selling anything because we only have like a limited group of people. And I would have quit my job in 2010, late 2010. And then so like, not that the internet wasn't a thing, I'm not that old, but it really hadn't like broadened our horizons yet. You know, like we weren't aware of how far we could reach with like social media. So anyway, I knew that I couldn't just sell like something that everybody was selling. And so I went to a 31 party and I was like, you know what? I could totally sell this. I could sell bags. I just seemed like someone who would sell bags. I don't know. But anyway, I was like, okay, I'll sell bags. And I forget, but I know that I'm pretty sure that the starter pack was like $99 and that included like 3 months of your own personal website and blah, 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 blah. And I signed up and I got them ugly ass bags in the mail and I hawked them to my family in 2 different parties. One for my husband's side of the family and one for my side of the family. And then I was done. I didn't know who else to sell to. Like I was done. And it also, like, I realized that all I was doing was trying to make my parents or his aunts or my, like, whoever feel sorry for me and buy this crap from me that they didn't need or want, you know? And that didn't feel good to me. So after 2 months, I quit the business of 31. I did make $700. I really did. And it wasn't one of those scenarios, but about like, yeah, but how much did you spend? I really didn't spend anything. I spent the $99 or whatever it was on the starter pack. And like, that was the end of that, which is going to lead me into one of the things I'm going to talk about. It was money I needed at the time. You know, I can't shit on it too much because like $700 at that moment in my life was like $1 million, you know, like it was a lot. So that's basically my like experience as a consultant with an MLM, but I have quite a bit of experience with like actually consuming them because there are things that I like from MLMs, like Pampered Chef stoneware. Or like their ice cream scoop, you know? My whole kitchen for the first like, I don't know, 8 years of my marriage till everything broke and I had to get rid of everything, was basically all Pampered Chef because my mom had me a like housewarming shower, but instead of having a housewarming shower, it was a Pampered Chef shower. And actually it was brilliant for everybody involved. But anyway, I like their products. I like some of their products. Like I said, I use the protein powder from Arbonne because I can't find another one that I like as good, that tastes as good for me. I have to use vegan protein powders. Please don't use this as like a sales pitch. Don't sell me your crap in the comments, okay? But I have to use vegan protein powders because the milk ones hurt my stomach, and that's the one I have found that doesn't taste like dirt and I can actually drink. But any other experience with an MLM has really come from you know, being forced to go to a party of some sort, whether that was a friend or whatever, and possibly even signing up for the like package where I get a discount, but I don't have to sell it, which could really be a conversation for another day because their stuff's expensive. Most MLMs aren't selling like cheap crap, you know, like their stuff's expensive. And so if you get people to sign up for a discount, they're probably ending up paying what they would if they found a similar product out in, you know, the world, yet you get a cut of it, and here we are talking about MLMs. Like, that is why. Okay, so the good about MLMs, okay? And I truly do see some good in them. I really do. I really do. And that is for a couple of different reasons. One, you know, I'm all for somebody hustling. I am all for somebody like, I need to make money. Let me figure out how. And having that as a tool in their belt is always a possibility. And so that mixed with like, it could be the money someone could need at that moment in their life and in the time, you know, that we're doing this. Like, that's not bad unless they're being taken advantage of at the same time, which they likely are, which is part of what we're going to talk about in the culty part. But like I say, the $700, like, nobody bugged me. My upline must have been just as careless as I was about 31, because I don't remember anybody like ever like, you need to sell more, you need to do the thing, right? Like, I don't ever remember that. That $700 helped me at that moment in time. I have, after, like, when I was talking about this on my Instagram and I asked y'all for stories and things like that, I have one message from someone who was like, you know what? I wasn't treated well when I decided to leave this MLM, and I wouldn't, you know, recommend anybody just go sign up. However, it paid my mortgage for 3 months, during 3 months when I needed it to pay my mortgage. And so, you know, it could be the money that someone needs at the time in their life that they need it. And that could lead them to the second good thing that I see with MLMs, and that is, I do think that sometimes MLMs are what lead people into entrepreneurship. Like, I am a big fan of you starting a business, you know? Like, I want you to start a business. And I want you to, if you want to, obviously, like, ditch corporate and create freedom and, like, do the things that we talk about, right? And so if an MLM is what it takes to get you in the mindset of, this is possible, I can actually do this thing, like, okay, cool. So I do think sometimes there are some goods, but it comes down to like the bad versus the good and like what it really comes down to. And if you're someone who like wants to yell at me for diving into the bad and the culty, just understand that anybody who is starting an MLM knows that this is the structure of them when they start it. They know what they need to do to have it catch fire. They know how to get people in to sell. They don't care because they're at the top, right? And also remember that when people are in cults, and I'm using that word like super loosely because cults are like a real thing and not cool. Also, by the way, I'm obsessed with cults. Not in like I'm obsessed, I want to be in one and they're cool, but I'm obsessed with hearing people's stories about being in cults and like the like mind control piece. And I think that's part of the reason MLMs, like, you know, makes me want to research things. But when people are being manipulated in the ways that people manipulate things or people, and they're still in it, they can't see the bad. All they see is the good. And everybody who thinks it's bad or sees the bad is bad to them, right? So right when Lularoe came out, I talked about it on my stories and I talked about it on Facebook, and like I think I even made a TikTok about it. But a friend of mine who, to my knowledge, has never sold an MLM at all, or specifically Lularoe, posted about it and was like, oh my gosh, are y'all watching Lularoe? Like, holy bananas, blah, blah, blah. And so many people, including myself, were like, yeah, it's crazy, like keep watching, it gets even crazier, whatever the scenario is, you know? And then this one person replied to the status and said, Just remember that what the documentary shows is not everyone's experience. I don't want to discredit anyone's experience, but they definitely weren't mine. Lularoe has done amazing things for my family and our community, which I don't doubt. Again, I think that we can't glaze over the good parts of these things, you know? But what we have to talk about is the fact that like a very small percentage, like super small percentage of the people in these MLMs have this experience. Like it's so very small. Like the top 1 or 2% of the company are the only ones with this experience. And when the bubble bursts, you're done. And so like, I guess I should say, if you're currently in an MLM and like this is how you feel and you're like, no, it's doing great things for me, it's doing great things for my family, I believe you. Like I don't discount that at all. If it's true, and we'll talk a little bit about what I mean there in the bad and the ugly, but understand that they will always bust. The bubble will always burst, like always, okay? So you don't see people like be in the top 1% for 30 years, and there's a reason for that. And then those people hop over to other companies, and then those people pull their people over with them. It's like a whole thing, okay? So understand that I don't discredit your experience at all, but I do think you need to be really cautious. Okay, I was getting really tired of sitting the way I was, and the only reason I was sitting over there was because of the sun. I have to kind of go that direction with my artificial lights if I'm gonna film on like, you know, a not so clear day, but now it's partly cloudy and I'm getting crappy light anyway, so might as well sit where I'm comfortable and I can lean on my desk, right? Okay, as we venture into the bad, I need you to know something here. I am a big fan of personal responsibility. I hate excuses. I don't like it when people don't take responsibility for their part in things or the reason things are happening to them or whatever. And so there is part of me, and even part of me when I was watching the Lula Rich documentary, that says, well, you got yourself into this mess. Like, that's not anybody's fault. However, I'm also not a complete a-hole, and I understand that sometimes, and I especially understand it as I dive deep and like figure things out about MLMs, is that they are preying on people a lot of times who are not in a good mental state. And sometimes in mental states, certain mental states, like we're not our best judgment keepers, you know, like we are not the best to judge a scenario, and we're vulnerable. And, you know, sometimes just in life in general, certain people are more vulnerable than others. So I've actually held off. I did a video on are MLMs an actual business, and they're not, by the way. I mean, the MLM is, like the people at the top have a business, but you don't. If you're selling an MLM, it is not your business, okay? But I did a video about that, and I really like held back on talking about the bad, because part of me, like I say, is just kind of like, well, don't join one and you won't get taken advantage of, right? But I do really get that sometimes that's easier said than done, and that some people are more susceptible to this kind of thing than others. So that being said, we're gonna start off the bad with the fact that MLMs are literally structured and taught. Like, people are taught. The salespeople, the consultants, like whatever you want to call them, are taught to prey on vulnerable people and people who are going through certain things as a way to offer them hope, because they know that that's a way to pull them in. I was watching a YouTube video, and I don't even remember, it's been probably a year or more ago, but I was watching this YouTube video of this girl who left a religious cult, and her mom joined this cult when she was going through a divorce. It's kind of the same thing with an MLM. I mean, people are going to prey on people who are going through something and are in a certain point. And you can say all day that that doesn't happen, but I have receipts. I have people that sent me conversations, okay? Sent me conversations that I'm gonna talk about, where this is absolutely what was done, and I have had this done to me. So while I have been kind of deep is not the right word, but like in an MLM as a consultant, I didn't really get a lot of training on how to sell or anything like that. And if I did, I must not have paid attention because I don't remember it. But this has to be a tactic that they're teaching, because people who are leaving MLMs are telling you that it's a tactic they're teaching, but also like they literally do this. So basically it's like, find people who are vulnerable, like in whatever scenario that might look like, and hand them the solution that could change their lives, that could bring in money while they stay home with their babies. And honestly, this is why we see a big uptick, if you will, in MLM reps in certain types of religious communities, because that religion may teach that the woman needs to stay home or whatever. And here we are with an MLM, like, you can stay home. Look, I have the key to that for you. So they definitely prey on people. So a few examples. I have one friend who sent me some screenshots. I will show parts of these screenshots as I'm talking, but I also like want to protect anonymity and not like blast people all over the internet, because I'm not a fan of that. But one friend of mine had a parent pass away, and like legitimately, like right after this person's parent passed away, they got a message that said, so it's just like, you know, hey, I'm sorry about your parent. I know you're self-employed, and between that and your parent dying and COVID, I bet times are hard now. I'm an ambassador. I'm an ambassador for a company called Noonday. We sell jewelry and accessories from third world countries to help provide sustainable income to the artisans and their families. Anyway, she goes on to basically say like, hey, if you want to have a party where you like raise funds, you know, for yourself or for something else, like hit me up. You know, I also had someone send me a message that was actually their friend's experience, but basically the same thing. It was just like, hi, sorry your mom died, but I have an amazing opportunity for you. Like, what? Like, not okay. I have had this happen in a less dramatic way. Nothing too crazy like happened to, anyway, let me explain. So there was this girl I went to high school with, and she was selling Rodan Fields. And I went to my first ever like business conference, and with this business conference, we got headshots. So like there was a professional photographer there to take our headshots, and I got them back, and I was obsessed. Like I had never had a professional headshot taken before. I'd always just taken my own, or like had family pictures that I would cut my head out of, you know? And so I was like, I loved these pictures. Like I'll show it here. Like they were good pictures. You know, like, yay, hello. Well, you can see the date that I posted it. And literally minutes later, I get this message. Basically like, hey, I know you're struggling with your face aging, because I just saw that picture you posted. So like, you know, that sucks, but maybe you should buy some Rodan Fields. I did tell her that she hurt my feelings and that was not an appropriate way to sell anything. I did. But like, what? You're preying on people's vulnerabilities. I definitely had this happen with some like weight loss company people when I was losing weight after my second son. So after my second son, I lost a bunch of weight so we could go to Hawaii. Not so we could go to Hawaii. Like I could have went to Hawaii without losing the weight, but I wanted to lose the weight because I wanted to like, you know, look at the pictures and be like, dang girl, you look good in a bikini, you know? And so I was losing all this weight. And when I posted about my like 8-week doctor says I'm clear to work out, yay, I'm about to get hot status, you know, I definitely had a Beachbody person reach out and be like, girl, you're gonna do so great, but you know what would make it even better? My company. And I told this story on my Instagram, so I'm not gonna tell the whole story. I'm not even gonna tell half the story. If you wanna see this like crazy story about a crazy person who like tried to do this to me, I have a whole highlight bubble telling the story on my Instagram account. But there was even a girl, when I was losing the weight, there was a girl who I'm sure still does it, but like I'm not in that crowd anymore, who literally went to the gym to work out. She wasn't doing Beachbody, she was doing another company. And she went to the gym to work out, but basically to find people who looked like, hey, like, you know, you need a weight loss shake, you know what I mean? And would go up to them and be like, hey, I can help you lose weight. You know, she was like hawking her MLM at the gym, you know? But she was there because she knows these people are like desperate, right? Like she knows that people are in the gym and they're like working away and maybe they're not seeing results, and she can help them and provide them the magic pill. And that's what these things teach. And that is really crappy. Like prey on people at their most vulnerable. Like, no, thank you. A lot of MLMs, like their main market are stay-at-home moms, because we can preach this message of you can stay home with your kids, Military spouses, because they know that military spouses generally can't you know, like hold down jobs because they have to move a lot. And sometimes it can be even difficult for them to get a job because the people in their town know they're going to move soon or whatever. And because that is just a breeding ground for an MLM party. And, you know, people who are miserable at their job, obviously, like they're targeting those people because it's like, well, you're miserable and I have the key out of this situation, right? I think that's like the point of it being predatory is you're in a like not great spot and I can give you the key to fixing it. But like selling leggings ain't going to, you know, bring back your dead relative. You know what I mean? Like we're just not in the right state of mind during all of that. Okay, remember we're still in the bad category here. And remember I told you it was going to be a deep dive. I wasn't playing. Deep dive. We are deep diving. The other thing I have to put in the bad category is their marketing tactics and the way they teach people to sell. Holy bananas. Holy bananas. If you've ever gotten a "Hey babe" message, you understand what this means. Hey babe, I was just scrolling my friends list and I hope you're doing well. We haven't talked in 10,000 years, but you'd be great for my company or whatever, right? So like one of the people who messaged me on Instagram was like, I'm a past MLM rep and I was like deep in it. What do you want to know? And I'm like, horror stories. I would love to know the crappy like training or sleazy tactics you were taught. And she said, make a list of 100 people you know that would like the product. Don't go to bed until you've talked to a minimum of 20 new people every day, with 5 of those people at least saying yes to the product or opportunity, right? So like, don't sleep and bug the shit out of people. She said, I've been challenged to cold message 100 people a day before, and literally the message was follow up until they die. They wouldn't do that to me. It wouldn't pay. It wouldn't pay for somebody to come in my inbox like that. Hey, see yourself out. Okay. This person also sold the like lipstick company. I forget what they call it. Lipsense? I think that's what it was. And she was told to wear the lip color on their hands. And if people asked about it, just go ahead and put a sample on their hands too. That way they won't forget about you. Like that is the stuff that we're doing. It's just weird. So like included in like the marketing crap is the "Hey babe" messages, the stuff like that. The fact that they're posting like job listings rather than being realistic and truthful with how they're recruiting. So what they'll do is they'll post like a job listing on like Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. I actually have a screenshot from a LinkedIn one that's just like advertising this like it's a real job. I'm looking for 10 people who are health coaches. You know, it'd be great if you were like a personal trainer and I want you to do this thing for me, and it never mentions Beachbody, not one time in the listing. And that's a big strategy too, is kind of hiding or gatekeeping the company because they know there's a stigma, right? Like there's a stigma with all of these MLM companies, like there is, and they know that. So what they do is they put out ways to like fish for people and then gatekeep the actual information. So that's one way to do it, like putting out an actual job listing that's like seems kind of legit. And then once they apply, like I hope they're a strong swimmer. It may take them a while to get away, you know? But the other way is just like not telling the company name until someone is like deep into wanting to know more. So I actually saw a reel the other day on Instagram, and I've been saving all these like MLM reels. It's mostly Monate people who do the reels, so that must be a big thing they're teaching, which is, you know, whatever. So I saw a reel the other day where the girl was talking about her hair, but you couldn't really tell what she was holding. And so I'm like, oh, I guarantee she sells Monate. So I go into her profile and you can't find, actually, that's not true. You could totally find in the photos that she was selling Monate, but you couldn't really find anything in her bio that said it. She said she was like a career coach, which is an interesting perspective, you know? And so I clicked on the link in her bio, and the link in her bio took me to her website where she had like merch and blog posts and an About Me page and all of this stuff. Nothing mentioning Monate. And then there was a page where you could apply for an awesome opportunity. And again, nothing mentioning the company. So I would imagine that's how she gets people in. So just like super sleazy marketing and sales tactics. And y'all, as I'm talking through this, there are so many other things that I researched, and I feel like I'm not going to be able to hit on all of them. The bad is also, yes, they may be sitting there and being like, hey, you can do this. I make $10,000 a month and you can too. And that may be true. But what they're not telling you is that it's only a teeny tiny percentage of the people, generally the people who got in first, or at least first in like their circle, who can do that. And they're just not telling you that. Like, they're not telling you that 80% of the company doesn't make any money. They're also not telling you, when they tell you about that car, that you're going to be forced to lease a Mercedes-Benz or whatever it is they're purchasing for you. You have to do that because, like, why would you not? Because you have to show people. And then they will pay a certain amount towards your lease payment for you every month based on, like, you know, I guess your sales. And so, like, there's just a lot not being told. There's a lot being kept. There's a lot being skewed. And, you know, while, yes, you can make $10,000 a month, most people aren't. 99% of people aren't. And if you go look at, like, income disclosures, so, like, I'll show a couple of them here, but there's a ton of income disclosures that show, like, 80% of our company makes, you know, $500 a month. And you have to pay, you know, 100 of that back to stay a consultant or whatever the scenario is. Or, you know, 1% of our company has made over $10,000 a month, or like whatever the scenario is. There's a ton of income disclosures, and actually every company has a public income disclosure. So it must be, that must be like an FTC rule. So if you want to look at these for yourself, you can totally go do that. But basically it's just like a very, very small percentage of people who make the money, get the car, do the things. And then an even smaller percentage of those people who actually, you know, stay with the company long term, or the company even cares about. That's something you hear a lot about, like when I am asking for stories or asking for research things. I hear a lot from people who are like, oh yeah, well, I was like a high up in such and such company, and then as soon as my sales started dropping, my upline dropped me like a sack of potatoes, you know? And I mean, it's just like not a stable, it's not stable income. You know what I mean? And that leads me in to the last section of this deep dive. Remember, it's the good, the bad, and the culty, right? So let's talk about the culty. So if you look up like the bite model of a cult, there's a lot of things talked about where it's like mind control or emotional abuse or whatever. You'd have to, like, I'll put a screenshot here. The bite model is basically like the characteristics that they use to kind of diagnose something as a cult. And MLMs have a lot of them, like ostracizing people who leave or telling you who you can and can't sit with or talk to. Like, that's not okay, y'all. It's not okay. If somebody leaves an MLM, they're going to be shunned. I have a bajillion messages in my inbox from ex-MLMers who are like, yeah, when I left, they were so mean to me. When I left, this happened. When I left, that happened. And I've seen it with my own eyes, with my own friends. In the Lularoe documentary, they talk about how when they left, they weren't like allowed to talk to people still in, or vice versa. The people still in weren't allowed to talk to them because they were bad, right? Like, you're slapping a label on somebody and calling them bad because they don't do what you do. That's culty. It is. It's culty. Another culty characteristic of MLMs is that they use self-help and personal development to continuously like hype people up so that they purposefully crash, they blame it on themselves, and they try harder. Like, this is like a perpetual cycle. They're using personal development. They're bringing in personal development speakers and books and like all the things for the purpose of shaming these people into thinking it's all their fault. Like, if you are part of an MLM and you're not like doing the sales you want to do, they're gonna tell you, I guarantee, well, you're just not working hard enough. Call more people, do more things. And so they make it seem like it's all their fault when in all actuality, it's likely oversaturated and the strategies don't work. Oh, this next one rubs me so wrong because my entire career as an entrepreneur, I have always like stayed so far away from this mentality as far as like someone who sells things, right? Like in marketing. And that is, they super encourage people to like put it on a credit card. Like, oh, you can't afford this awesome opportunity, put it on a credit card, you'll make it all back. So they are like literally encouraging people to go into debt to take advantage of this opportunity because they're promising it's going to be life-changing without telling them that it's only life-changing to a small percentage of people. And likely they had that conversation while that person was like in a bad place. I totally put my $31.99 on a credit card because I couldn't afford anything else at the time. Totally did. And I can guarantee you that the Lularoe consultants, like that's why in the documentary they talk so much about like how much debt they're in, because I guarantee they all did that. And then in order to keep their status as a salesperson, they had to keep ordering more things, even if they didn't sell them. And actually that leads straight into the next kind of culty thing about MLMs, and that is that there are sales quotas, which whatever, like there's sales quotas in a lot of areas in this world, right? A lot of industries, but there's sales quotas, and consultants are generally encouraged to obviously meet those sales quotas so they can meet their goals and like go far and beyond and whatever. But a lot of times they're encouraged to either make fake customers, or if the company allows them to just do it under their own name, to buy their own, like put their own money into hitting those goals. So like, hey, if you sell $1,000 this month, you're gonna qualify. That'll be the first month you qualify for this next level. You have to do it 6 months in a row, but it'll be the first month you qualify for this next level. And that next level is what's gonna get you that car, right? So you have to make $1,000 in sales this month. Oh, you're only at 800? Okay, awesome. What I would do is set up like a fake profile and have like buy things that you need anyway. You love the products, right? So like buy things you need anyway, get that extra 200 and you've qualified for your first month. Then what happens is the next month is the same thing. The next month is the same thing. And likely it's more than $200. And likely the money they're putting in, they're never getting back. So it's set up in a system that's literally designed to put people into debt, keep them vulnerable, keep them trying, and keep them thinking it's their own fault. Right there. That's why it's culty. That is it. That is it, my friends. Going back to where we started this whole conversation in, the people are the product conversation about Amway, the people are the product in MLMs too. It's just that they get by with it because there's actually a product. So something I have learned and something that like a lot of these documentaries show is that the money is in the recruitment. It's not in the sales of the product. Like if person A and person B are both starting out totally like the same, right? Like they're on even starting grounds. Person A decides that her main focus is going to be recruiting. She's going to recruit like 6 people every month or like whatever the scenario is, right? And then she's going to encourage them to recruit this many people and like that's what she's going to do. But person B decides, no, I'm just going to sell the product. Like if somebody wants to join, great, and that's not going to be my focus. They could both go balls to the wall with their own strategy, and person A will grow and make more money way faster because the people are how they're being paid. They are being paid to traffic people into this company. They are being incentivized to bring people into the company. Like, what? And then those people are incentivized, and then those people are incentivized, and then those people are incentivized. And really what it comes down to is that the people at the top don't have to touch the product. They're making bank because the people underneath them are. So it's culty because they actually are monetizing the people. It actually is a pyramid scheme. To put the cherry on top, based on what I just said, only the people at the top get anywhere in every single one of these companies. The only people who benefit from this are the people at the top, the CEOs, right? Like the owners, the people who started it, but also the people who got in first. So if you are not a first adapter, if you are not someone who comes on early, you're not going to see all these things that they say you can see. They say it because they see it because they're at the top. They can sit there and be like, I made $100,000 last year, and you can too, and they're not lying. You could, if you would have gotten in at the same time they did. If you had everything, even playing field, sure. But they're not gonna sit there and tell you that because then you're not gonna join and they're not going to make more money. Okay, so I will say that I started this journey of researching MLMs and like doing this deep dive as someone who would have said they're not anti-MLM. Because again, remember that I do see a little bit of good in them. And I'm also someone who believes in personal responsibility, and this whole like, I'm a victim, they preyed on me, I like whatever, it bothers me because like in my head, it's just like, well, then why did you do it? You know, but the more I have researched, the more I have deep dove, the more I have talked to people and had conversations with people, the more I can't bring myself to continue to support companies that are built in this model. Like, I am to that point, and I would have never said that. Like, even like 6 months ago, I would have never been like, oh yeah, I'm so anti-MLM that I'd never buy from one. No, I would have still bought from them. Now, I'm pretty anti-MLM to the point where I wouldn't even buy from them anymore because I understand what they're doing. The people at the top, the CEOs, the people who started the company, they know that this business model is profitable for them, but not for other people. They know that this business model is an easy one to sell. They know that they can hawk their products in this way because they're getting other people to do it. They know all of this because they have years and years. I mean, the first one was started, in the 30s? They have years and years of research that shows how this business model works, and they still choose to do it. And they have years and years of research that shows that there are victims and there are people who are taken advantage of and preyed on, and they still choose to do it. So like, I don't know. I just can't get down with it, you know? Anywho, I'm looking at the timer on my camera, and I think that might have been an hour-long video. I am sorry. Or maybe I'm not. I don't know. Do you like this? If you made it this far, did you like this? I'd also love to know what you'd like to deep dive more into in other areas. Should I have split it into 2 episodes? Like, I don't know. I'm just learning, you know? I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do here. But that is the first official episode of Curiosity, and I hope that you enjoyed it. So like I say, if you made it this far, congratulations. Go get yourself a cookie, you know, like really. And let me know what else you'd like to learn about. It can be business related, personal, pop culture, like whatever. I'd love to do some more deep dives like this. And I'd also love to know if you'd rather have it in 2 parts, or if this was fun or whatever. And if you're feeling frisky and you want to, you know, tell me why I'm wrong on all of this or whatever, comments are open for you too. So anywho, I'm excited. I'm excited to do more of these. And I feel like I have to come up with like a new sign off for the curiosity segments. Like it can't just be like, until next time, bye y'all, because that's what I do on my other videos. So maybe it should be like a Walter Cronkite type thing, like, and that is the curiosity